The headlines are buzzing with the news that could reshape not just politics or the military, but entire housing markets. That's exactly what happened when President Trump announced the relocation of the U.S. Space Command headquarters from Colorado to Huntsville, Alabama. Suddenly, what sounds like a political headline turns into a real estate story with massive implications. Think about it. Thousands of military personnel, contractors, scientists, and their families are about to descend on North Alabama. With them comes demand for homes, rentals, schools, and entire neighborhoods. Huntsville, already nicknamed Rocket City for its ties to NASA, is about to become the official home of America's Space Command. And when you combine high-paying jobs, a surge in population, and limited housing inventory, you get one thing: a recipe for a housing boom. But here's the twist. It won't just be Huntsville feeling the heat. Smaller towns and suburbs around the city could see even sharper growth as families and investors search for the best deals. So today, we're breaking down the top 10 Alabama cities where housing market will boom with the Space Command move. Stay tuned, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss big real estate opportunities like this one. Number 10. Cullman, Alabama. Coming in at number 10 is Cullman, a city about 45 minutes south of Huntsville that might not be the first place people think of when they hear Space Command relocation. But it absolutely deserves a spot on this list. Right now, Cullman's typical home value sits around $218,699 according to Zillow. That's one of the most affordable averages you'll find anywhere in North Alabama. Compare that to Huntsville, where homes are closing in on $283,000, or Madison, where they're well above $370,000. For families or military personnel relocating with tighter budgets, Cullman suddenly becomes a very attractive option. But here's where it gets interesting. Cullman also has one of the lowest property tax rates in the entire state, at just 0.25% effective tax. That's significantly lower than Madison County's 0.41%. Investors looking to hold property long-term will notice that difference on their balance sheets immediately. Of course, it's not all upside. Homeowners insurance is a bit pricier here, averaging about $3,720 per year for a $300,000 dwelling, higher than Huntsville and Decatur. That could put some pressure on affordability, especially for first-time buyers. So what's the real estate play here? Cullman offers space and affordability. As thousands of new jobs flow into Huntsville, some families may be willing to trade a longer commute for cheaper homes and lower taxes. Developers may also eye Cullman for new subdivisions, especially if Huntsville's inventory can't keep pace with demand. Think of Cullman as the quiet beneficiary. It may not get the headlines like Huntsville or Madison, but the relocation of U.S. Space Command could turn this affordable, lower-tax city into a sleeper hit for both homebuyers and investors who know where to look. Number 9. Gurley, Alabama. At number 9, we're heading just east of Huntsville to the small town of Gurley, Alabama. With a population of under 1,000, Gurley may not look like a booming market on the surface. But when big changes hit nearby Huntsville, it's places like Gurley that can quietly benefit in a big way. Right now, the typical home value in Gurley is about $325,697. That puts it above the Alabama state average and even higher than Decatur or Cullman. Why? Gurley has become a desirable spot for people who want more land, mountain views, and that small-town lifestyle, while still being within a short drive of Huntsville's job market. Property taxes in Madison County, where Gurley is located, run at an effective rate of about 0.41%. That's higher than Cullman's, but still far below the national average, making it easier to carry real estate long-term. On the other hand, homeowners insurance in the Huntsville metro hovers around $2,900 to $3,200 per year for a $300,000 dwelling. That's middle of the pack compared to other Alabama cities, but worth noting for investors running their cash flow numbers. So why does Gurley make this list? As thousands of military families and defense contractors pour into North Alabama, demand for homes close to Huntsville will spike. Once Huntsville and Madison run short on inventory, buyers will naturally start looking outward. And Gurley is perfectly positioned to catch that wave. You might not see high-rise apartments or major subdivisions here tomorrow, but you could see steady appreciation in single-family homes, especially those with scenic views or larger lots. For investors and home buyers alike, Gurley represents a chance to get in early on a market that's small now, but with Space Command moving in next door, it won't stay quiet for long. Number 8. Owens Crossroads, Alabama. Number 8 takes us southeast of Huntsville to Owens Crossroads, a city that often flies under the radar but is quietly one of the more upscale markets in Madison County. Unlike some of the more affordable towns on this list, Owens Crossroads has a distinctly different profile. It's where higher-ranking officers, contractors, and professionals might set their sights. The data backs that up. The typical home value here is around $427,327, well above the Huntsville metro average of $282,900. That price point tells us two things. 1. There's already strong demand for quality housing in this community. And 2. Owens Crossroads is poised to attract the incoming wave of families with larger budgets, particularly those seeking new construction or luxury homes in scenic settings. Property taxes remain competitive at 0.41%, thanks to Madison County's still low rates. But don't overlook the added cost of insurance. Homeowners here can expect to pay in the ballpark of $2,900 to $3,200 annually on a $300,000 dwelling. While that's manageable, it does slightly offset the affordability advantage that Alabama usually enjoys. Now here's the angle that makes Owens Crossroads especially interesting. Location. Nestled near the foothills of the Appalachians, it offers stunning landscapes and plenty of outdoor recreation. For military and aerospace professionals relocating with their families, lifestyle is often just as important as commute time. This is the kind of community that can sell itself not just with square footage, but with quality of life. The possibilities? Expect continued demand for new subdivisions, high-end rentals, and even short-term housing aimed at contractors on temporary assignment. Owens Crossroads won't see the bargain hunters. It will see the professionals who want comfort, scenery, and proximity to Huntsville's booming economy. For investors, that means fewer cheap flips but stronger appreciation potential in the mid to high-end housing category. This is a town that could quietly become one of the most desirable addresses in North Alabama as Space Command takes root. Number 7. Harvest, Alabama. At number 7, we arrive in Harvest, a once rural community that's quickly evolving into one of Huntsville's most talked-about suburbs. Unlike Owens Crossroads, which leans upscale, Harvest represents the middle ground, affordable enough to attract young families, yet close enough to Huntsville to make commuting easy. The numbers tell a compelling story. As of now, the typical home value in Harvest is about $311,700. That puts it squarely between Huntsville's $282,906 and Athens' $306,800. For buyers priced out of Madison or Owens Crossroads, Harvest provides a more accessible entry point without sacrificing proximity to jobs or amenities. Taxes remain reasonable, 0.41% in Madison County and 0.32% in Limestone County, since Harvest straddles both. That dual county setup could even become a selling point, giving buyers and investors options depending on their tax strategy. Insurance runs in the $2,900 to $3,200 range annually, in line with the metro average, which is manageable when you factor in Alabama's relatively low cost of living. But here's where Harvest really stands out. Land. Unlike Huntsville proper, which is feeling the squeeze of limited inventory, Harvest still has room for growth. Developers see this, and so do investors. As new subdivisions break ground, Harvest could become the pressure valve that relieves Huntsville's overheated housing market. The possibilities are significant. Military families may flock here for affordable new builds, while investors could target rental properties, anticipating a steady flow of tenants from Space Command and the defense industry. And with infrastructure improvements likely to follow population growth, Harvest could transform from a bedroom community into a self-sustaining hub over the next decade. If Owen's Crossroads is about lifestyle and luxury, Harvest is about balance, space to grow, room to build, and affordability that keeps doors open for a wide range of buyers. It's no longer just farmland, it's the next suburban frontier for North Alabama. Number 6. Hazel Green, Alabama. Hazel Green might not be the first name that comes to mind when you think about booming housing markets, but that's exactly why it's on this list. Located just outside Huntsville, Hazel Green has quietly become one of the most sought-after suburban areas in northern Alabama. In fact, it has recently been ranked among the fastest-growing towns in the United States, with population growth fueled largely by people moving out of Huntsville in search of more space and more affordable housing. Here's the thing. Huntsville itself has been making national headlines for its job market. It's home to NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, Redstone Arsenal, and a growing tech ecosystem that has put it at the top of many best places to live lists. But as housing costs in Huntsville climb, families and young professionals are setting their eyes on Hazel Green, where the median home price sits well below the national average. Buyers are realizing they can still get a large single-family home with a yard, something increasingly rare in bigger metros. What's fascinating about Hazel Green is how quickly infrastructure is catching up with growth. New subdivisions, schools, and retail developments are reshaping the area, yet it still holds on to its small-town feel. That balance between rural charm and suburban convenience is exactly what today's remote workers and relocating families are chasing. But it's not all smooth sailing. With growth comes challenges. Roads are under pressure, and demand for utilities and services is rising faster than the city can always keep up with. Yet, those very growing pains are also signs of a real estate market on the rise. Investors see them not as drawbacks, but as indicators of where long-term value is building. For anyone looking at Alabama real estate, Hazel Green stands as a reminder that opportunity often lies just beyond the spotlight. It's not the Huntsville headlines that should catch your eye, it's the ripple effect they're creating in towns like Hazel Green. If you're finding this breakdown useful, make sure to hit that like button so more people can discover it, and don't forget to subscribe to the Globe Realty for insider real estate insights every week. Now, let's dive into the top 5, because this is where the opportunities get really exciting. Number 5. Athens, Alabama. If you drive about 25 miles west of Huntsville, you'll land in Athens, Alabama, a city that's been quietly redefining itself over the past decade. Athens is more than just a spillover town from Huntsville. It has become a magnet for families who want a balance between affordability, community, and access to high-paying jobs. And now, with the U.S. Space Command headquarters shifting to Huntsville, Athens is poised to absorb a fresh wave of homebuyers. What makes Athens so appealing? Let's start with housing costs. The median home price in Athens hovers around $330,000, still below Huntsville's median, which recently topped $360,000. That price difference is enough to draw budget-conscious buyers who are priced out of the core market. Add in relatively modest property taxes. Alabama ranks among the lowest in the nation, and more affordable homeowners insurance compared to coastal states, and Athens starts to look like a solid long-term bet. But here's what really makes Athens stand out. Its location along I-65, the north-south artery that connects Birmingham to Nashville. For commuters, that means easy access not just to Huntsville, but to a regional economic corridor that continues to expand. As more defense contractors, aerospace engineers, and tech workers move in, Athens offers them something Huntsville can't always guarantee: space. Larger lots, newer subdivisions, and a slower pace of life are proving attractive to families who want the benefits of the Huntsville job market without the congestion. Of course, with growth comes competition. Investors are circling Athens, looking for rental opportunities as demand for housing outpaces supply. Builders are moving quickly, but the question is whether they can keep up with the surge. Those who buy early are likely to see both equity growth and rental demand rise in the coming years. Athens may not make as many national headlines as Huntsville, but its role in this story is clear. As Space Command lands in Alabama, Athens stands ready, not just as a neighbor to Huntsville, but as a city carving its own path in the state's real estate boom. Number 4. Madison, Alabama. When people talk about the Huntsville metro, Madison almost always enters the conversation. It's one of the fastest-growing cities in Alabama, and for good reason. It's a hub for professionals working in aerospace, defense, and high-tech industries. With the Space Command headquarters now heading to Huntsville, Madison is expected to feel the ripple effects faster than almost anywhere else. Let's talk numbers. The median home price in Madison sits around $370,000, a step above Athens and Hazel Green, but still accessible compared to national averages. Property taxes remain attractively low. Alabama's median effective property tax rate is just 0.40%, far below states like New Jersey or Illinois. Homeowners insurance is also favorable, averaging below $2,000 annually, a fraction of what coastal residents pay. For families and investors alike, that combination spells strong, long-term affordability. But here's what sets Madison apart: schools and quality of life. Madison City schools consistently rank among the top in Alabama, drawing families who are less concerned about saving a few $1,000s on a home and more focused on raising children in a strong educational environment. That emphasis on community and education has created steady demand, even during market slowdowns. Now, consider proximity. Madison is essentially Huntsville's western edge, close enough for a 15-minute commute to Redstone Arsenal or Cummings Research Park, but far enough to offer quieter, suburban neighborhoods. As more Space Command staffers and defense contractors move in, Madison will likely absorb many of the relocations because it offers both convenience and lifestyle perks. Still, Madison's challenge is supply. The pace of demand has outstripped construction, and inventory remains tight. That means bidding wars aren't out of the question, especially for desirable school district homes. Investors who can secure properties here may find themselves sitting on strong rental assets, while families who buy early are locking in value before prices push higher. In short, Madison isn't just riding Huntsville's coattails. It's a city with its own gravitational pull, and the arrival of Space Command only strengthens that orbit. Number 3. Decatur, Alabama. Imagine standing on the banks of the Tennessee River, looking across at a city that blends industry, history, and a surprising amount of real estate potential. That's Decatur, Alabama, a place long known for its river port and manufacturing roots, but now finding itself in the spotlight as Huntsville's growth stretches outward. With the Space Command headquarters planting itself in Huntsville, Decatur is poised to absorb a wave of newcomers who want affordability with a touch of River City charm. Start with the numbers. The median home price in Decatur hovers around $250,000, significantly lower than Huntsville, Madison, or Athens. That price point makes it one of the most affordable entry markets in the region. Property taxes remain among the lowest in the nation, thanks to Alabama's statewide structure, and insurance rates are relatively stable, especially compared to coastal areas vulnerable to hurricanes. For first-time buyers, it's the kind of market where a mortgage feels manageable, something rare in 2025. But affordability alone doesn't explain Decatur's appeal. The city sits less than 25 miles from Huntsville, with major employers like United Launch Alliance and GE Aviation already investing in the area. The addition of Space Command means more defense contractors and engineers will be moving nearby, and Decatur offers them a chance to live by the water, avoid Huntsville's rising costs, and still commute with ease. Here's the twist. Decatur isn't just playing catch-up. It's been quietly improving its downtown, adding restaurants, cultural venues, and housing developments. Pair that with recreational assets, the river, Wheeler National Wildlife Refuge, and growing trail systems. And suddenly, Decatur looks less like an overlooked industrial town and more like an underpriced lifestyle destination. For investors, that mix of affordability and momentum is golden. For families, it's an opportunity to secure homes at today's prices before Huntsville's expansion permanently reshapes Decatur's market. So, while others chase the headlines in Madison or Athens, Decatur is quietly preparing to surprise everyone. And sometimes, it's the city just beyond the spotlight where the biggest gains are made. Number 2. Harvest, Alabama. Picture yourself driving north out of Huntsville on US Highway 53. The city lights slowly give way to open fields, new subdivisions, and clusters of homes that weren't here just a few years ago. This is Harvest, Alabama, a community that has become one of the fastest-growing suburbs in Madison County. And with Space Command now on its way, Harvest's transformation is only just beginning. Let's ground this in numbers. The median home price in Harvest is around $310,000. A sweet spot for families who want more space than they could afford in Huntsville or Madison. Property taxes stay remarkably low thanks to Alabama's statewide averages, and homeowners insurance is generally lower than in storm-prone parts of the state. For many relocating professionals, it's a market that checks both the affordability and stability boxes. But Harvest's story is about more than just prices. It's about potential. Over the past decade, this once rural area has exploded with subdivisions, new schools, and retail centers. Families are moving here for the larger lots, quieter neighborhoods, and the promise of more home for the money. And yet, you're still less than a 20-minute drive to Redstone Arsenal or Cummings Research Park. Two hubs directly tied to Space Command operations stand in one of Harvest's new neighborhoods today, and you'll notice something. It's a blend of longtime residents and newcomers from across the country. That mix creates a unique dynamic. On one hand, there's still a small-town Alabama feel. On the other, there's an unmistakable sense that Harvest is morphing into a major suburban player. The challenge, of course, is infrastructure. Rapid growth has put pressure on schools, roads, and utilities. But for investors, those are signals of a market in transition, a place where demand is outrunning supply. That's often where the greatest real estate opportunities emerge. Harvest may not yet have the name recognition of Madison or Decatur, but it's on the cusp. And for those watching closely, this quiet community could soon become one of the most talked-about housing markets in northern Alabama. Number 1, Huntsville, Alabama. And here we are, the epicenter, the headline maker, the city that just changed the trajectory of Alabama real estate. Huntsville, Alabama, known as Rocket City, is no longer just famous for NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center or its role in America's space race. With the relocation of the U.S. Space Command headquarters, Huntsville is now stepping onto the global stage as one of the most strategically important cities in the United States. Let's start with the facts. The median home price in Huntsville has crossed $360,000, reflecting years of steady growth. That's still below the national average, but demand is pushing it higher every quarter. Alabama's low property taxes, just 0.40% effective rate, and competitive homeowners insurance give Huntsville buyers an advantage that many other growing metros can't match. For military families, aerospace engineers, and contractors arriving with Space Command, the affordability equation is hard to ignore. But Huntsville isn't just about numbers, it's about momentum. The city has topped U.S. News & World Report's Best Places to Live list, powered by a tech-driven economy, a thriving cultural scene, and one of the nation's fastest-growing job markets. From the booming Cummings Research Park to the ever-expanding Redstone Arsenal, Huntsville's economy is built on innovation, and that's exactly what attracts both workers and investors. Now, imagine the impact of Space Command arriving. Thousands of new jobs, families relocating, and businesses following suit. That kind of influx doesn't just shift a market, it transforms it. New housing developments, rising rental demand, and infrastructure expansion are already underway, and Huntsville is prepared to absorb it. For investors, the writing is on the wall. Huntsville is no longer a hidden gem, it's the crown jewel of Alabama real estate. For homebuyers, the message is clear. Act now, because the days of Huntsville being affordable are numbered. The U.S. Space Command may be moving its headquarters here, but Huntsville has already launched into a new orbit, one where its real estate market will shine brighter than ever before. So there you have it, the top 10 Alabama cities and towns set to boom as the U.S. Space Command packs its bags for Huntsville. From small but mighty communities like Hazel Green and Harvest, to family favorites like Madison and Athens, and finally to the powerhouse that is Huntsville itself. Each of these markets is bracing for a surge in demand, new development, and rising property values. What's fascinating is how the ripple effect plays out. It's not just Huntsville that benefits from this move. It's the entire northern Alabama corridor. Families will need homes, contractors will need rentals, businesses will open their doors to serve this growing population. And for investors and homebuyers who act early, the opportunities could be game-changing. But here's the real question. How will this historic relocation shape the future of real estate in Alabama over the next 5, 10, even 20 years? Will these cities hold on to their affordability, or will they become the next hotspots where locals struggle to keep up with demand? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these markets you'd bet on. If you found this countdown valuable, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the Globe Realty, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into real estate trends that could change your financial future. Until next time, this is the Globe Realty, helping you see the big picture, one market at a time.